fading skies. Tattered flags waving dreams in our eyes. The crowds roar like a storm on the wind. We're the underdogs fighting again.
What's going on, guys? Good evening. It is Saturday night, and it is the day after one of the biggest victories in USMNT World Cup history. As a matter of fact, I would go on to say that it was probably the biggest victory of the Mauricio Pochettino era. And we're going to get into it tonight because, quite frankly, this is what we're going to do now. After the U.S. men's national team play, we're going to have a recap. We're going to talk about it. And quite frankly, it was abuse played out on a football pitch. And to be honest with you, it was absolutely glorious. And it was everything I was hoping it would be. Listen, I'm still kind of like in my feels over it too, because quite literally, I'm not going to go so far to say that we're going to win the World Cup. I'm not going to be that guy. But what I will say is that the performance I saw yesterday is just a reminder of the quality this team has, the depth that this team also has, and especially when you look at the pairing between its coach and you look at the strength of this team, it was a match made in heaven, and this is exactly why the Federation wanted Mauricio Pochettino. The other thing that is also remarkable is that this channel is sitting on 498 subscriptions. So do me a favor and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and also hit that notification bell so we can get this channel above the 500 mark, get this thing pointed in the right direction, because at the end of the World Cup 2026, I would love to have 1,000. That also kind of points to the quality of the show and the depth in which this show has, not unlike a certain national team that we're covering on this show. Yeah, you like that? All right, cool. We'll go with that. All right. So before I get into it, let's just go ahead and recap today's scores. For those that were midday watching, Qatar and Switzerland played to a boring 1-1 draw. I don't know if anybody watched that game. Switzerland got on the board early with a penalty, and then I think in stoppage time, Qatar equalized. And of course, now Qatar gets their first ever World Cup point. So I guess congratulations to the Qataris. Job well done. And right now there is a match that looks like it's about to go final, as Brazil and Morocco looks like they're going to play to a 1-1 draw. And for those that had Brazil going all the way, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. Now, granted, Morocco is a very good team. It's not hard to understand or see why. But people still think that this Brazil is the Brazil of 2002 or 94 or 1970, and it's like, listen, Brazil's a good team. There's no doubt about it. Brazil's a good team. They just don't have those type of players anymore. Brazil is not developing those type of players. Vinny Jr., good player. Neymar, Neymar over the cycles that he played was a very good player, but he was not on the same level as Ronaldinho, not on the same level as the Brazilian Ronaldo, Kaká, some of those great Brazilian players that we all grew up knowing and loving. But listen, man, if Brazil was really Brazil, they would have figured out a way to win this match today. It just is what it is, man. It just is what it is. This is what the modern game is. This is what the modern game is. And by the way, for those that weren't paying attention to CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying, Brazil kind of struggled a little bit in World Cup qualifying. It just is what it is. Even though that they're being led by one of the greatest club coaches of all time, and Carlo Ancelotti, it's just a different animal. International football these days is just something completely different. Adrian, what's going on, my friend? Spurs Diehards TTID et al. Good evening, Steve. Good to see you, Adrian. I hope you're doing well. And I do apologize about yesterday. I couldn't make it on. I should have sent you a message. That was my bad, dude. As a matter of fact, I'll be in Seattle this upcoming Friday for U.S. versus Australia, so I won't be available this Friday either. I do pop into Spurs Diehards TTID, being the Tottenham Hotspur guy myself. Very good show. As a matter of fact, you guys should also head over to Adrian's channel and hit that like and subscribe button as well, too. Very good channel, Spurs Diehards. All right, so last night, our U.S. men's national team did something that was very remarkable. And it was historic in a sense that we have never, in the history of our modern era, had a match that was quite like that. And by the way, for all you English, pricks over there, we codify it as European, but let's just understand this noise is coming from England. And I got nothing but love for my English homies, but understand that I'm sick of the calm down. It was just Paraguay. Because the reality is Paraguay is a good team. Are they great? No. But that being said, understand that under their new head coach, Gustavo Alfaro, they had only lost one of their last 10. And of course, that loss came to us. They beat Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia all in World Cup qualifying. I think they only conceded 6 goals in their last 10. And for a team that bunkers quite a bit, this is a team that also can get forward and score goals and make life a living hell for even some of the best teams in South America. And yesterday was supposed to be a match in which we were going to see the discipline and the organization of what Paraguay and how Paraguay plays football. And what we saw initially was Paraguay trying to catch the U.S. flat-footed in the first 8 minutes of that match. As a matter of fact, they weren't playing their prototypical style of football, and it nearly actually cost the U.S. fairly early. But once we were able to get into the game and play our game, then we saw Paraguay be Paraguay. The only difference is they were completely out of sorts last night because we didn't see a team that was organized. We saw a team that conceded far too much space, and we were able to get comfortable. And by the way, it was a sight to behold because our scoring capped off with an own goal, Flo Balogun chips in 2 right before the half. Gio Reyna caps it off at the end, and the U.S. get essentially a 3-goal cushion in the first match of the World Cup. And now all of a sudden, the group is ours to control. Even if we get a draw against Australia, which we're not, it's going to take a Herculean effort for us to completely concede this entire group. That's the reality with that win now. But it was interesting. It was interesting in the fact that I have seen Paraguay play a lot of football. And what we saw last night from them was something that it's not really in their DNA. They are a very disciplined football team, and they do not come unglued. But as soon as the United States gets their second goal, we started seeing them play a little chippy. We started seeing back tackles that, they're not. That's not really something that we see. We started seeing them do some things that kind of let you know that they were starting to come unglued a little bit. And from that standpoint, the floodgates opened, and as soon as Flo Balogun hit the second goal, it was over. They understood it was over. Even when they get one back, it was still over. It was still over. And it was something that was incredibly remarkable. But it also goes to show you the depth that the U.S. absolutely has. And we're going to get into this in just a second. Adrian goes on to say, good game, 1-1, a fair result. Morocco, the better team in the first half. Brazil, better in the second. But the referees reluctant to issue yellow cards. You're spot on, Adrian. Brazil came out in that second half with a sense of urgency. I think they understood exactly what this match actually meant. For those that you guys remember, Brazil, I think, went out in the quarterfinals the last go round. So from that standpoint, I think he highlighted that very well. It seemed both teams were actually really kind of getting into the harder tackles as both teams tried to progress forward. And he's absolutely all right. The referee in that match was very reluctant to pull cards. In some aspects, I kind of like that because I like teams that are allowed to play. But again, one of the things that as a referee, you have to allow the game to have that flow, to have that natural flow state. And sometimes you're going to see players do some things that absolutely disrupt that, and you have to be willing to pull your card at a certain extent, or you're going to continue to get that type of physical play pretty much all match long. So I definitely agree with that one, Adrian. But so yesterday we're gonna have a couple facts here. So yesterday was the third time in the modern history of the U.S. men's national team where they won their World Cup opener. They got one in 2002. They got one in 2010 and 2014. 2014, and then yesterday. That's pretty historic. We typically draw our first match. That's usually how we start World Cups. Is we usually draw. This time around, we were able to get the absolute body bagging victory, and essentially, killed off Paraguay out of the tournament. But the other interesting thing was Flo Balogun's brace yesterday. His 2-goal performance was the first time a U.S. men's national team player had a multi-goal performance in the World Cup since 1930, and it was Bert in the 1930 World Cup. It was Bert Patenaude who actually scored a hat trick in a World Cup game against Paraguay, 1930. So there you go. That was the first time a U.S. men's national team player had a multi-goal performance in damn near a century. So congratulations to Flo Balogun. But I said it this morning on X, and it was actually rather poignant on my part, in that yesterday was so. Look at for the U.S. men's national team. Look at the strikers that we took into Qatar 2022. Okay, and look at the way that the U.S. played just 4 years ago. 4 years ago, we took Josh Sargent, okay, Jordan Morris, and we took Jesus Ferreira to Qatar 2022. Now, here's the thing. Those three guys are good in their own right. Are they great? No, not really. And then you look at the three strikers we're bringing into this World Cup: Flo Balogun, Ricardo Pepi, and Haji Wright. And there's no comparison. Two of these guys are Champions League strikers. The other is now playing in the Premier League because he just got his Coventry City team promoted to the Premier League. And the level is completely different. And then you look at what we're throwing forward. Christian Pulisic is a Champions League player. He's won the damn thing with Chelsea. But he was in it just, a couple years ago with AC Milan. Serginho Dest is a Champions League player, playing with PSV with Ricardo Pepi. You look at Malik Tillman with Bayer Leverkusen. It's a Champions League level team. You look at Weston McKennie with Juventus, Champions League team. You look at Tyler Adams, who just led Bournemouth to their first ever European place in a European tournament coming up this year with Bournemouth. Very good player. It's like you look at the transition of this team over 4 years, and you can see that not only does this team get better, but this team got deeper and it got far more talented. Now, yes, there are certain issues on this team, goalkeeping and potentially defense. But the interesting thing was that I want to pull this one up because a good buddy of mine, his name was Soccer Dad in SoCal. It's really good, actually. And it was a very, here we go. The 2026 World Cup will hopefully be the peak culmination of a process that required reevaluation, patience, improvement, self-reflection, failure, and better coaching. No, this team was not capable of these type of performances 5 years ago, and he was 150% correct, because we weren't capable. 5 years ago, this team couldn't win a match outside of CONCACAF. It just couldn't. Facts. This team could not. This team was only capable of beating Mexico and Panama in Canada. But every single time this team stepped out of CONCACAF, it got the doors blown off of it. The other thing is that we didn't have the necessary quality. We didn't have the quality. And also, we were so heavily reliant on Christian Pulisic to be that guy to bail us out. And 4 years later, as important, by the way, as Christian is, we don't need him to score goals for us to win, because we have other guys available who are certainly capable of winning a football match. It's interesting too, because I remember going to Nashville, Tennessee to watch World Cup qualifier, U.S. versus Canada. And it was night and day. Canada ended up winning that day. And you can see the difference between the two teams. Canada had Jonathan David. It had Alphonso Davies. It had Kyle Larin. And the interesting thing was the way that they were working and the way that they were utilizing space. And you saw our defense shade over and tried to overload certain areas, certain spaces of the pitch so we can neutralize a guy like Alphonso Davies. But when you did that, when you overcommit, and then all of a sudden you allow a dude like Jonathan David to go 1v1, and all of a sudden you give up a goal, and then all of a sudden it's lost. The match is lost. And that was certainly the case on that day. But when we were getting forward, it was hero ball. It was Christian Pulisic off the left, and he's going to shade in, and he's going to take on two defenders and try to put one in the far corner. And that's how we attacked and how we attacked and how we attacked. And granted, yeah, we qualified barely. We qualified by the skin of our teeth. We got in off a goal differential in 2022. And of course, we saw that translate in World Cup 2022, where we didn't have the caliber of striker. And Tim Weah was not Tim Weah today. And again, it's like, we didn't have Ricardo Pepi. We didn't have Flo Balogun. We had Major League Soccer strikers where in isolation, depending on where we find them space in the channels, will depend on whether they're going to be capable of scoring a goal. Now we have guys like Flo Balogun that can attack defenders 1v1, create space and score goals, or play off the back shoulder, and then all of a sudden, bam, the ball's in the back of the net, because they do this in the Champions League every single year. Like, these guys are proven commodities to the point where Ricardo Pepi is now going to the Premier League with Fulham. And I would not be surprised, by the way, if Flo Balogun ends up back in the Premier League post World Cup 2026, because he's like, all of a sudden now he's got 2 goals, and you figure by the time that the U.S. are done, he's probably going to be hovering around like 6. And there's going to be a handful of teams in the Premier League that are kind of looking at it. I'm looking at you, Spurs. You damn right I'm looking at you, Spurs. That are going to be looking at Flo Balogun thinking, like, you know what? Dude's 26, in his prime, and he's a Champions League striker. He had 20 goals across all competitions last season with Monaco. Yeah, that might be worth 60 million pounds. That might be worth it. Go and get him. But the reality is quite simple. It's like, we are so deep now. This is by far the deepest, most talented set of forwards that we have ever taken into a World Cup, and that's no disrespect on Clint Dempsey. That's no disrespect to Landon Donovan or Eddie Johnson or Brian McBride or Clint Mathis or Eric Winalda, because we have had at times a very good striker or a very good winger or a very good central attacker. But we have never had a collection all in one squad where you're kind of looking at it like, oh, dude, we got 4 or 5 dudes that are capable of putting the ball in the back of the net. Like, you can't just shade over and try to take away Pulisic, because there's going to be 2 or 3 other dudes coming from different spots on the pitch that are going to be able to crash the box and make your life a living hell. But the other aspect of this is the Pochettino effect. The Pochettino effect. And what's funny is somebody that watched Mauricio Pochettino at Espanyol, watched him at Southampton, and watched him with my beloved Tottenham Hotspur. This U.S. team is playing quintessential Mauricio Pochettino football. It is front footing. It is daring. It is attacking. It is bringing different waves of numbers forward. And it's also high pressing the shit out of its opponents, looking for that turnover. So they can have 1-2 touch play a ball into the box. It looked obviously better with Harry Kane and Christian Eriksen, and Sonny, and Moussa Dembele and Lucas Moura. Yeah, I mean, it looked way better at Tottenham. Not going to lie. But this is a perfect fit. Like, if there was ever a perfect fit for a national team with a coach, it is Mauricio Pochettino to the United States. There's a reason why he decided to take the United States. There was England available, and word was that England actually called Pochettino first, and he elected to take the United States. It also happens that money was a factor, but it was also something that something that he can build, because it was also the post 2026 thing to consider. And I'm also being told that there is also conversations happening where they could possibly extend Mauricio Pochettino past, and it would be interesting to see it with the next wave of young players that are coming past this upcoming World Cup. The Mehmetis of the world, Julian Hall, Kevin Sullivan, Diego Luna, Xavier Gozo, some of these players who are in that 17 to 22 year age range. And of course, you have young players that are over in Europe right now. The Rokas Pukstas, who's playing in the Croatian league with Hajduk Split. You also have young goalkeepers in Diego Kochin and Gaga Slonina and Jonathan Klinsmann. Like, the U.S. is deep. The U.S. is deep. And I think it's a testament to U.S. development, although there are problems with our development system. Some will say culture. Could be. But the reality is like, the fit is good with the United States. And I think we saw that yesterday, where all of a sudden, when you're looking at these last four matches, which was Belgium, Portugal, Senegal, Germany, and you're kind of looking at the effort of this team, and you're kind of like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. That being said, you can't take results from friendlies, because it has been known that this national team treats friendlies much different than tournament play. Much different than tournament play. But that being said, when it's time when the rubber meets the road and these players have to show up, they show out. And they certainly did. They certainly did last night. And now all of a sudden, they are in the driver's seat in a group that most just expected Turkey. And by the way, Turkey is not the greatest national team on the face of the earth. They're okay. They're all right. They're not in the upper echelon of European nations. Let's understand who we're talking about here. They barely qualified. They had to go into the playoff to get here. Let's see what we got here. All right. So Adrian says, "Go USA! A good start for the host. This is what you want. The host to do well, to get USA fans to fill football, soccer stadiums. We already do for Major League Soccer. Major League Soccer does a very good job getting fan support with with this World Cup. Yeah, it is an opportunity for casuals to make soccer a must. Let's see. We have Del Morva. How you doing, Del Morva? 9877. Hello, footballers. World Cup off to a great start. I like it, except for your Chelsea badge, but I can excuse it just this once. Just this one time. I will excuse the Chelsea badge. Nate Ski, my brother. How you doing? RAFC TID, Rhode Island till I die. I hope you're doing well tonight, Nate Ski. Let's see. We have okay. Let's see. Adrian goes on to say, you can make the quarterfinals. That is my minimum. Derpy, the 501st. Second. Go USA, dude. Absolutely. As a Spurs fan, I take an interest in impressive players in the World Cup, but I'm also wary of why they haven't impressed prior to the World Cup. Yeah, well, the interesting thing, though, is that especially for American players, there is a bias, and it's real. And the interesting thing is that you see it a lot when American players go over to Europe. It happened to Christian, it happened to Wes, and it's going to happen continuously until this bias almost dies. The interesting thing is that if there's three players and one of them is English and the other one's Italian and the other one is American, most coaches, and they're the same skill set. Okay, they are the exact same skill set. There's nothing really that differentiates themselves as players. The only thing that separates them are their nationality. But a coach over there is going to look at the English player or the Italian player first before they give run to the American player, even though the American player may fit better. But there is this stigma attached to American players that they can't play the game, even though I think we have proven now over a couple decades that we can play it, and we can play it at a high level. And so scouts will look at it and potentially will overlook American players, because there's going to be clubs in England, there's going to be clubs in Germany that are going to look at it and say, well, we have to improve, but that doesn't improve us. And so they'll ignore it. And I've seen it with my own two eyes, where it's funny because being an American, those are the first players I'm looking at. I have a bias. I think we all have, predisposed biases. But what I will say is that it happens. But what the great part about it is when you get these World Cups and you get these performances, i.e., nobody really understood who Yamin Lamal was until 2 years ago at the Euros. Same things with Arda Güler. They were just unknown youth players, and then they exploded. Every single World Cup, every single Copa America, every single Euros, we always have this. Some player shows up, has themselves a phenomenal tournament, and then they get like shit. 2014 with James Rodriguez. James was an unknown. He goes to the World Cup with Colombia, has an unbelievable tournament, and then all of a sudden he's playing for Real Madrid. Happens all the time. I think Chicharito also had himself a good World Cup tournament, and then he ended up at Manchester United. It happens all the time. Same thing happened with Landon Donovan as a youth, and then he went to Bayer Leverkusen. So, this happens all the time, right? So the interesting thing is if Flo Balogun has himself a tournament where he has 6+ goals, leading the U.S. in goal scoring, there is going to be a lot of big teams in England that are going to be looking at him, thinking to themselves like, oh, this dude is a 20-goal scorer. And he's already done it at a remarkably high level for Monaco. And he's a very good international with the U.S. Let's bring him to the club. Let's see. Derpy says straight belt to butt, without a doubt. Without a doubt. We shall see if previously below the radar impress in the World Cup and get a transfer to bigger clubs. My eyes are on. I really hope that Spurs have their scouts here at the World Cup. That's what I'm really hoping. How far do you think England will go? I have England in a final. I really do. I think England are very well built to the strengths of Thomas Tuchel. And I like Thomas Tuchel as a coach, so I'm curiously optimistic to see England play. They also have the best striker in the world in Harry Kane. The question for me is going to be Jude Bellingham. He's gonna have to have the tournament of his goddamn life. And same thing with Bukayo Saka as well too. But the quality and the talent's there. The quality and the talent is 100% with England. And the question is if they can get to that level, can they close it out? Because the last couple times where they've been in the final, Italy in 2021, they lose in a shootout. And then I think it was just a couple summers ago during the Euros. Yeah. Where they get to a final again and couldn't get over the top. So it's not like England is snake bitten. It's just they have to figure out how to win. And that's one of the biggest things. It's the drawback to international football because major tournaments are every 2 years. So the difference between club football is that with a team that is young or with a team that is just being put together, they're going to go through some growing pains. But ultimately, next season, if you have kind of a mediocre season as you're getting used to yourself or getting used to your players or your new coach, whatever the case may be, the next season you can add pieces and you can make a run and you can learn from those losses and you become a better unit. With international football, it's like every 2 years. And so you have to wait, and chances are pretty good that your player pool is going to stay the same. There's going to be some changes, but it's not going to be like wholesale changes. So you have to wait 2 years to run it back. So if you're England, man, that was a long time. You had to wait 4 years, to at least try to get back to a final in the Euros. It's a long time to wait, man. It's a long time to wait. This is, for me, this is Harry Kane's last go round. And I would love to see Harry go out on top, man. That would be great. I got nothing but love for Harry Kane. Adrian says semis. Okay. Czar 22297. Good to see you, Czar. I hope that is not a pronoun. But it says, I like your t-shirt. Where do you get it? I got it from the American Outlaws. The American Outlaws are a U.S. supporters group. And the interesting thing is that I'm not an active member of the American Outlaws. I can say that I am. Technically speaking, I am a member, but I do not go to any of the supporters meetings or anything like that because I'm just not I like soccer. I like watching soccer, and I like watching soccer with like-minded people. And what I don't like is getting into a debate on immigration reform or rights of certain individuals. Like, that's not why I'm a supporter. I'm a supporter because I enjoy the team and I enjoy the sport. My political views are mine and mine alone. So, Fernando Estevez. Good to see you, Fernando. 8565. He says Spain SSSSS. So we got a Spanish fan here. Not a bad team to support, by the way. Prediction for Portugal versus Colombia. This is going to be a tasty affair. Because I actually have Colombia as one of my dark horse teams. Colombia is such a good team. And Portugal is a very good team too. Would it surprise you if I said a 1-1 draw? Because I can easily see that happening. I can't imagine Portugal is going to blow the doors off Colombia because Colombia are so very talented defensively as well too that they don't give up soft goals. And you're not really going to beat any one of their defenders 1v1. And so in order to score, it's going to have to be a collective. Now, Portugal has that. Portugal has that ability in spades. But Colombia is a very good team. A very, very, very good team. Very deep, very talented. And me personally, they get overshadowed by Brazil and Argentina. Some would say rightfully so. But those that are tuned into South American football understand that Colombia is not really like a seaside to their A and B. Like Colombia is a team that, depending on the location, can beat either one of those two teams. So yeah, I'm gonna go 1-1 draw. 1-1 draw. The AO are woke. Yes, they are. Every supporters group in the United States is very, very in tune to identity politics, without a doubt. And but the reality is, it's like I'm not here for it. That's not why I signed up. I signed up because I love my national team, and I love my country, and I love the sport. That's it. Pretty simple. So yeah, and by the way, yesterday, Mauricio Pochettino took Christian Pulisic off at half. The substitution was for Sebastian Berhalter, and congratulations to Sebastian Berhalter getting his first appearance in the World Cup. He was one of the, I think it's like one of the 5 first-timers that are on the team. So congratulations to Sebastian Berhalter. But it was said by Mauricio Pochettino that Christian Pulisic took a kick to the calf in training leading into that match versus Paraguay. It was sore. But that being said, it wasn't serious enough to warrant his availability, and that Christian was going to play. And had the game been been in a situation where it was closer, I'm sure Christian would have continued to play. But because we had put Paraguay to the sword in the first half, it made it easier for Pochettino to remove him from the game, and it was the right decision because, again, Christian Pulisic is one of those players where you're not going to be, you can't risk him. You can't put him out there, and all of a sudden you have a muscle pull, or even worse, a muscle tear where he's gone for the rest of the tournament. We don't have a like for like with Christian, and so from that standpoint, I like the pragmatism from Mauricio Pochettino to understand that we have bigger games coming up, and the one thing that you can't do is allow your ego to get in front of the team. And so from that standpoint, Mauricio did the right thing. And by the way, look at what Christian was doing yesterday, man. Essentially dribbling between two defenders and playing the ball forward, utilizing the space that was given. My God, Christian probably played his best half in the U.S. shirt in about 3 years. Like really, like that 45 minutes was like old Christian Pulisic. We're talking like Pulisic, like 2017 through like 2020. That was very good. That was such a very good performance from Christian Pulisic. The only thing that was missing was a goal, was missing a goal. But outside of that, it was like you looked at his attention to detail, the fact that he was always looking forward, his eyes were looking forward, his passes were his passes were pinpoint, but they were weighted perfectly, and he always seemed to put the ball in the right areas for maximum effect. And it was like that dude was fearless yesterday, fearless. And it's just a breath of fresh air to actually see it, because we all know what Christian's capable of on his day. And it just seemed like the last 6 months with club and country, I don't know if he was struggling, but the reality was he hadn't scored anything really. And so it's nice to see that killer back in a U.S. shirt, because, I mean, when he's on, he's world class. When he's on, he's world class, without a shred of doubt. Jaden the man. Good to see you, Jaden. I think that is dying out more as top 5 teams are directly inquiring for youngsters from Major League Soccer. Yeah. The interesting thing is that Yeah, you're absolutely right. The what I find interesting is that you're seeing a lot of American movement into the championship from Major League Soccer. The interesting thing, where top five teams are buying prospects are actually from the USL Championship. Over the last like 4 months, I've seen four different moves, from youngsters that are going to either Bayern Munich or teams across Europe. That's actually a very good it's a very good indication that U.S. is doing very good things. The problem with Major League Soccer is the pathways. The pathways in Major League Soccer are just it's dependent on teams, right? That's my biggest problem. Is like not every team is going to have pathways available, because if you're Inter Miami, you're not going to open up pathways for young American players. You might do it for young Argentinian players, but you're certainly not doing it for American players. Inter Miami is going to be spending money bringing in foreign players. Same thing with LAFC. But you're going to have teams like Real Salt Lake. You're going to have teams like New York, Seattle, that are going to develop because they use their money strategically, and they use their roster allocation strategically to at least try to have some semblance of balance across, from attacker all the way to goalkeeper. And so instead of having a striker and your two wingers be all three DPs, it's going to be a DP striker, a DP cam, and then maybe a DP goalkeeper. And you're going to have like a TAM winger, a TAM 8, and a TAM 6. And then, your other winger is going to be a young player. Maybe you have a young player as a 6 or an 8 or whatever, and then your outside backs might be young players, and you're going to develop that way. You're going to that is me personally, I think that's like the prototypical way to build a roster in Major League Soccer, because you see a lot of top heavy attacking teams in Major League Soccer. And if you're a young striker playing in that MLS Next Pros, team, you have zero shot at getting called into the first team. Zero shot. But I digress. Let's see. You can't use the chemistry argument. There's no proof. Let's see. Brazil is horrible. The only team that has chemistry and have a system is Spain. Yeah, I can kind of buy that. Looks like Shakwali is getting some run in the chat here on TikTok. Ibra and Henri low-key hating Lawless is high comedy. And what's funny is that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, Alexi, listen, you have to appreciate Alexi Lawless, because he understands what the game is. And he has blended entertainment, and he has blended entertainment, and he is somebody who engages in hyperbole, but he also understands that brings eyeballs. And that's the reason why he continues to have a job. There are some things where he says something so outrageous, you're like, I don't even think he believes it. But that's not the point. That's not the point about Alexi Lawless. Sometimes he can be a little over the top, but sometimes he's also right as well too. So you think U.S. is the third best team in the world? I don't think so. But again, it's World Cup time, right? So, all bets are off, because, World Cup time, and I think we kind of saw it yesterday in the first half, right? Where, generally speaking, in a lot of those friendly matches, one of the things that I noticed is that, more than 50% of the time, the U.S. weren't necessarily getting calls. their way yesterday. In that first half, we were benefiting from a lot of good calls that were going our way. And again, that's the World Cup time, man. Host nations. I'm telling you. Now, I'm not sitting here saying there's a FIFA conspiracy. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that, this has been a history with the World Cup where host nations will benefit from the ref eating his whistle a little too much. That's all I'll say. Let's see. So, as historical as it was yesterday, and make no mistake, it was historical. Getting a 4-1 victory on home soil against a very good Paraguay team, and the fact that we now control the group, all eyes now turn to Australia and the Socceroos in Seattle this upcoming Friday. And again, it's going to be interesting to see how Australia comes at us, because Australia pretty much is the exact same setup and format of what I expected out of Paraguay, which is you have a team that is more or less light on talent, but they are hardworking. They jump into 50-50 tackles. They jump into 50-50 headers. They're not afraid to mix it up. And they just play hard to the whistle. They are organized. They can be disciplined. They can also be hard-headed as well, too. But they play the way that we used to play. And that is their identity. They go out there looking to try to punch somebody in the mouth. And I can actually respect Australia. I really can. They have some good players, but across the board, you're talking about a team that most of their players play in the A-League down there, and it's not exactly the highest caliber of league when it comes to coefficient. But what I will say is that Australia will give you problems if you're not careful. But one of the things that Paraguay did to start this game was try to put us on the back foot. And it actually kind of startled us. And thankfully, we didn't buy into it. They didn't score, thank God. I mean, what would have happened if they went up 1-0 in the first 10 minutes because they caught us flat-footed or they caught us out? Maybe the complexity of that match kind of changes a little bit. But is that going to be something where Australia might try to pull something like that? Maybe. But now that we have that in our locker, now that we actually have that, we can now adequately prepare for that, just in case, having that in-game contingency plan, which is only something that happens obviously when it happens in the moment. But what I will say is that we are going to, like, everybody thought that Paraguay was going to be a test. Okay, yeah, I guess it could have been. This is also, for me, this Australia match is a banana skin. In every sense of the word. It's a team that can beat you if you're not careful. And my hope is that the U.S. aren't overlooking Australia. Because as Wes Puller here in the chat says, they play a physical game. Yeah, they do. And again, they're not afraid to mix it up. And they're going to tackle hard. They're going to try to intimidate. And let's be perfectly honest, we have players that can be baited. I'm looking at you, Tim Weah. Yeah. Donnie Brasco, Australia will give more problems. Great athletes, discipline, energy for 180 minutes, without a doubt. They can run for days. And one of the things that you cannot do is put yourself in a situation where you get baited and you retaliate, and then we get a red card, i.e. against Panama in the second game of Copa America 2 summers ago. And ironically, it was the match that got Greg Berhalter ultimately got Greg Berhalter fired. But yeah, and it's something that you can't overlook because you're going to be coming off the high of a 4-1 victory. And you're going to be playing in a stadium that absolutely supports the national team. Make no mistake, Seattle shows out for the national team. And that entire stadium will be going bananas. Not only will it be a collection of the American Outlaws, but also the Emerald City supporters. So that south end is going to be rocking. And it's going to be, the environment is going to be fantastic. And one of the things that I absolutely cannot and will not accept is this team overlooking a team like Australia. Because what ends up happening is if you lose, now all of a sudden that dynamic of controlling the group changes. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to keep your foot on the gas, and you have to keep yourself focused, because it's going to be pivotal going into that match against Turkey that we have 6 points. Because you're hoping that maybe one or two of those teams, one or both of those teams will play Turkey tough, and maybe one of those guys will get a result like a draw. Because if Paraguay or Turkey, Paraguay or Australia can play them tough and get a draw off of Turkey, and now all of a sudden we get 6 points and they're coming in on 4, a draw still wins us the group. Like, we want to be able to control our destiny when it comes to winning this group. And that means total concentration on Australia, without a doubt. Without a doubt. It's going to be quite interesting. I will be there in Seattle, and of course I will be doing some really cool videos out there in Seattle when it comes to the supporters and all that good stuff. So yeah, there's going to be some really cool stuff on TikTok, also here on YouTube as well too. So definitely check that out. Let's see. Kang, where do you think America will get to in the World Cup? Come on, you Spurs. Love it. Love it. Quarterfinal. I like to see it. Let's see. The U.S. can win from Turkey, but they are technical, full of passion, and good with the ball. Yeah. One of the things that I like about it is that we played Turkey last summer, heading into the Gold Cup. And we actually, it was Switzerland that kind of did us dirty. But, I will say that we played Turkey pretty tough. And if you guys remember that match, we were playing with essentially what is a B-side, a team that was more domestic than first team. We ended up losing that match, but we played Turkey pretty tough. And it's having that intel on Turkey and understanding their tendencies of how they play. And so because we have that tape, and of course, we had our advanced scouts out there fully breaking down Turkey and how they play and what to expect, little intricacies within their style of play. I fully trust Maurizio Pochettino and his staff to be able to devise a plan against a Turkey team. And it's interesting though, right? Like my question is like, if we just attack them direct and put pressure, will they fold? That's a good question for you guys, especially those that are over in Europe that are in the chat. And maybe you guys have seen Turkey play a little bit more than I have. Let me know. Let me know how you feel about that, right? So if Maurizio Pochettino just plays direct and just puts pressure on their back line, will they crack? By the way, we have technical players, and we have guys that can put the ball in the back of the net. Let's see. Yeah, that's true. Listen, Donnie, you're absolutely right. That is kind of our weak area. Let's So here it is. Turkey are decent, but they can be get at lack of cohesion. Boom, there it is. AK Kang or A Kang. There it is. Intel from TikTok. That's how it is. But ultimately, this is an opportunity for the U.S. to make history. And, we've already started off this tournament with a little piece of history. And I like it. I like it, right? Like, it's interesting. Somebody asked me that question yesterday during the live stream. Was there ever a player, a U.S. player that ever had a hat trick in a World Cup game? And I thought about it, and I'm like, I don't think so. Not in my lifetime. I can't remember a hat trick. Turns out it was, and it was in 1930 against Paraguay. So it's been damn near a century since the last U.S. player to have a multi-goal game. So there you go. Flo Balogun makes history. But again, it shows you the difference that 4 years makes with this national team. And the interesting thing was that this team had to lose. This team had to go through that process of losing. Like that's what makes diamonds, right? It's that pressure that creates diamonds. And the only way that you're going to be able to become that is by losing. The only and this goes for any walk of life. This goes for any job, for any walk of life, that failure is the only recipe for success, because it's in failure that you find out where your weaknesses are. It lets you know why you failed. I know for a fact that I failed on multiple fronts in my life, and it sucks. And when you fail, you never want to fail again. And so you adjust. And if you're honest with yourself, you're going to be able to succeed, because you're going to understand exactly why you failed. And that's just how life is. With this team, there was a lot of momentum coming out in 2022. I think because we overachieved at that World Cup in Qatar. If you get with level-headed Americans that actually understand the game and understand the player pool, they will tell you that World Cup was a little bit of an overachievement, because this team was rebuilt under Greg Berhalter, and the style and the image of how he wanted to play. He didn't carry any of the previous players that failed to qualify in 2017, and he led this team to the World Cup barely. And I think a lot of fans were like, "Listen, if we can get to the third game in the group stage with an opportunity to get to the knockout rounds, that will be, for this group, considering it was like the second youngest group in the draw." The second youngest team in the draw, that I think U.S. fans would be okay with it. And then we beat Iran, and we get to the knockout rounds where a better Netherlands team beat us. Fair enough. But we know exactly where the limit is with this team, and now we have to be able to tangibly improve on that. And that is the measure of how you are going to improve in this World Cup. And I think there was a lot of momentum. And then we had the shitstorm between Gio Reyna and his family and Greg Berhalter, where the Reynas threw dirt on the Berhalter family. And of course, by the way, Claudio Reyna and Greg Berhalter were good friends. And I think it was the Reynas were upset that Gio wasn't playing enough. And Greg almost sent Gio home. And then, Claudio Reyna and his wife put that out there that, Greg back in the day hit his wife and, whatever, all that drama. And, Greg's contract was coming up. And so they have a search. And, Matt Crocker was set to hire Jesse Marsh. The powers that be at U.S. Soccer wanted to keep Greg. So, They did Jesse Marsh dirty. He goes to Canada. We get Greg Berhalter, but then all of a sudden we have the Copa America, where we become the first team in Copa America history to get grouped, and subsequently Greg Berhalter gets fired, and then we have Mauricio Pochettino. And by the way, this is not a normal 4-year cycle. This doesn't happen. It really doesn't. It's only happened twice, I think, in our modern history. To Jurgen Klinsmann and to Greg Berhalter. And, when Mauricio came in, he had a lot of work to do because there were a lot of players that just assumed their spot was guaranteed. There wasn't a lot of fight. There wasn't a lot of determination. There wasn't a lot of fighting for your spot. And so Mauricio Pochettino had to change the environment, had to change the culture. And he dropped a lot of guys that you would just assume were going to be in the World Cup. And he made guys fight for their spots. And it turned out that it was the best for this team because it reinforced that the national team isn't guaranteed. Like, it's an honor to wear the badge. And if you're going to wear it, you're going to give it 100%. But again, some of those results didn't go the way that we thought. But here we are, and this has the I'm not going to use the word feeling, but this has the makings of something potential, something fantastic, something that we're going to talk about in 20 years. Like, where were you when the U.S. got to a quarterfinal? Or where were you when the U.S., essentially forced the world to look at them as something besides just an underdog team because we made a run to the semifinals. Now, again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying it's like, that's the beauty of a World Cup. Top teams get eliminated. Top teams get grouped. Brazil, Brazil going out in the quarterfinals the last couple of tournaments. Morocco making a run to the semifinals when, that was, that wasn't a thing. African teams never really do all that great in the World Cup. Belgium, Belgium, went to a semifinal in 2018. Didn't the Netherlands play for a champion? Play in the final? What year did they go to the final? 2018? But yeah, no, they didn't even qualify in 2018, so that must have been 2010. There you go, 2010. Yeah, there you go. With Ian Robin and Robin Van Persie, Wesley Schneider, and those guys. Yeah, that was a good team. Good teams get knocked off, and all of a sudden your path gets clear, and you get a break or two, and all of a sudden you're making a run deep. So yeah. So you never know, man. Let's see. Brazil are missing the Jenga. Ireland's fall off is generation. We used to be international giants. I was kind of hoping Ireland would make the draw. Same thing with Wales. That would have been great if all 4 UK nations were represented. But what are you going to do? All right, let's see. Hoping for a wide open, fun match tonight. Yeah, Scotland's playing Haiti. Let's go, Tartan Army. I'm supporting you. All right, so coming up on the channel, we will be back on Monday night and Wednesday night as we set the stage for U.S. versus Australia. And of course, we're going to be doing the pre-match build-up, and then the next day I take off for Seattle. So there will be no live stream this weekend coming up because I'll be there doing it. I'll be there watching it, but we will definitely be setting the stage for that as well too. I'm also going to I think what's going to end up happening is after the first round of games, I think I'm going to have a wrap up, a weekly wrap up where we go over certain games, and yeah, that should be fun as well too. So we'll do that. But anyway, there's a lot coming up on the channel, so please do me a favor and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell. Show the channel some love, and if you guys are tuning in on TikTok Live, the link is in the description, so you can head over to YouTube. It's free. It takes a second, and yeah, man, show the channel some love, man. Just do it. Have some fun. All right, guys, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I can't believe Adrian's in the chat, man. It must be, let's see, it's 9 o'clock, so it's like, what, 1 o'clock in the morning in the UK? You guys are up with me. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Jaden the Man, Czar 222297, Fernando Estevez, all those guys, Derpy the 501st, Natesky, RIFC, TID, Rhode Island FC Till I Die, Del Morva, all of those guys that participated in the chat, I want to say thank you. Those that participated on TikTok, you guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. Even the trolls, you guys are awesome. I will see you, I believe, on Monday night. So take care, guys, and enjoy it. Have fun.
Rusted goalposts under fading skies.